What's up, everybody? Bachata Rockstar here. Currently shooting this from a place that is not my house. Just shooting it on my phone. Managed to squeeze in a little time and decided to make this video. Um, just wanted to do a quick update on myself and then get into the content and the major announcements that have been happening over the course of the last couple of days. I think they're fantastic for the game, and I'll talk about them shortly. Some of you may be wondering, why the heck do I call myself Bachata Rockstar? And the reason is because I'm also a dance instructor in the dance form bachata, as well as various other versions of Latin dance. And over the course of the last couple of weeks, some huge changes happened in my life. I've taught at three very big festivals, um, and I've also got a new job, and I'm in the process of moving. And so I literally have had only a couple of hours on my computer tops, and I haven't really been able to make content or stream at all. And I've also, like I said, I've been indulging the other side of me, which is dance and is teaching. And so I'm very happy to have been able to do that, but I definitely miss Hearthstone and I definitely miss making content. And so I wanted to make sure to get this out to you guys. So that being said, let's move on. Let's talk about the year of the mammoth. Mammoths have tusks. I can't imitate that with my hands. I don't know why. This is nuts because it is a new standard rotation year. Big changes are happening. They made a huge announcement just now. Some of you may know it, some of you not. So I'm going to be updating on it now. So coming with the year of the mammoth, we're losing Blackrock Mountain, TGT, and LOE. And I think that is enormous for the game because so many of those cards have become staples in the game. Obviously, all of the LOE legendaries were huge. Reno, Bran, Elise, and Finley all see a lot of play. At least not quite so much anymore, but she definitely saw a lot in the Control Warrior days. But losing a ton of the very good dragon cards are going to make dragon decks feel a lot different. I think there still will be dragon versions of decks, and I know that people really like them, and they're definitely popular. Um, so I do think they're going to have to make a lot more dragon cards to replace the cards that we're losing. You know, hopefully they don't do just like one for one replacements. We're just like, hey, look, we're losing this card. We're losing, you know, Twilight Guardian, right? So 4 mana, 3/6 taunt. And they're like, oh, look, we made this other thing, and we call it the Evening Protector. And it's a 3/5. But if you have a dragon in your hand, it becomes a 4/6 with taunt. Woo! Totally different card! Like, nah, it's the same thing. So my guess is they'll probably have to introduce some new mechanics, some new dragon-related mechanics, to make the decks more viable and make them really cool. And of course, TGT, you lose a lot of the Inspire mechanics, which honestly haven't seen a ton of play. But there's a lot of cards that you'd be surprised are like, oh, this isn't TGT? Like, huh? And then now it's gone? Like, oh, weird. Like, I've had it forever. Um, so that's big. So we are losing a lot of cards. In fact, this is the biggest loss of cards we've had up until this point. And hence, that's why I think that is prompting what I'm going to talk about a little bit later. But not only are we losing these three expansions, we're also going to have 6 cards taken out of Standard and rotated into Wild that are part of the Classic set. So these cards were originally cards that were thought to be evergreen and were never going to be taken out. So it turns out, I think in this case, it's a nice way of saying, hey, look, even Classic cards, we want to try to preserve sort of the spirit of the class, but we're going to have to take some of these cards out because they're showing up in too many decks and they just become too powerful. You know, and they're continuing to be just too powerful. So, the cards we're losing are Azure Drake, Sylvanas, Ragnaros, Power Overwhelming, Ice Lance, and Conceal, which is kind of nuts to me. Azure Drake, I think, was needed for sure because, I mean, it's pretty much an auto include in so many decks. Not quite as much as it was before, but you do still see it a lot. It's just a very simple card that does so much, is so versatile, and you might as well have it. It cycles itself. It gives you a 4/4 body. It gives you that spell damage. Shamans love it. Mages love it. You know, it goes in all the dragon decks because it's a dragon. It's too easy to just flop it in there. You start building your deck, you get to 5, and you go, well, I got to put in 2 Azure Drakes, and then anything else? Yeah. And this is why Blizzard created so many different, like, 5-drop options in Mean Streets of Gadgetzan, because they wanted to see people utilizing something that wasn't Azure Drake. So now they said, fuck it, take Azure Drake out. Now they have to do something different, which is fine. And I think that's cool. And that's sort of part of why Standard is in play, is to continually make things fresh. Sylvanas, honestly, I've seen a huge drop in the play of Sylvanas. Especially with this current meta. Things are so fast that Sylvanas is often too slow. And by the time you put Sylvanas out there, it's just like, meh, I'm done. You're already dead. So in this current meta, I don't see a problem with it. But I do think that there's probably going to be a lot more Death Rattle synergies coming up. And having Sylvanas in a deck like that, especially something if there's like N'Zoth brings Sylvanas back. But if there's some sort of like other Death Rattle transfer, Death Rattle creation, swapping Death Rattle, whatever, there's going to be stuff like that. And having Sylvanas will just be too strong, and I already know it. So I'm not surprised that's gone. Ragnaros was basically it was a finisher for aggro decks, and it was a great control tool for control decks. Pretty much in the 8 mana slot, if you didn't already have something really, a class legendary that was really strong, i.e. a Tyrion, you would just throw in Ragnaros. And the double Rag Paladin deck was a thing for a while, and even then. So even when you have comparable legendaries to put in the 8 mana, 7 mana, 9 mana slot, a lot of times you just choose Rag because he hops on the board and he basically has charge. You just it's too good. It's too universally good. People were putting Ragnaros in fucking Freeze Mage, and it was a better deck. That shouldn't be. A card should not be like that. And there's a reason why Dr. Boom was rotated out of Standard, is because he was just an auto-include in every deck. Well, Ragnaros is not an auto-include, but every time he's in a deck, he makes that deck that much better. There should be a penalty for putting a card like Ragnaros that doesn't fit into a deck, and there really wasn't one. PO, Ice Lance, Conceal. PO was creating all the Leroy faceless combos, so I think that's why they wanted to take that out. Ice Lance was basically a big part of Freeze Mage, and I think they wanted to take that out, sort of force people to use the freeze effects and not necessarily just the damage effects, because that's all people really wanted. They wanted a 1 damage, a 1 mana, 4 damage plus card. That's all they cared about. If they needed an activator, it's fine. They never cared about the freeze effect. The freeze effect wasn't important. And so they got rid of Ice Lance because they want you to utilize other freeze effects. And then, of course, Conceal. Conceal with Gadgetzan, people thought was too strong. It was uninteractive. It was hard for them to kill. So Gadgetzan auctioneers become much more vulnerable, which means you don't want to use them now until you actually have some cards stored up that you can use with the Gadgetzan auctioneer, making it not just a turn 6 play. Basically you would play Gadgetzan on 6, coin, Conceal, draw 2 cards, have a Gadgetzan, and then you're ready to just go off on the next turn. So what they want to do now is force you to have some cards stored up before you play Gadgetzan, and then also allow you to kill the Gadgetzan afterwards. I guess that's good. I think it's going to make Miracle Road suck. It's not going to suck. It's just, it's going to be not as good. And people have been cutting Conceal a lot, so I don't think it's a huge problem. Anyway, but I think one of the biggest announcements that they have made now is that unlike the years in the past where they have gone expansion, adventure, and sometimes only 1 expansion in a year and 2 adventures in a year, which I believe happened a little while ago. I don't remember exactly. They're going to do 3 130-card expansions. Whoa! Then they're going to just incorporate adventures into the 130-card expansions. So this is a lot of work for Blizzard. This is a lot of planning, and clearly you don't make this announcement unless you've been planning this for over a year. This is all in development. I would assume that the first two expansions are already done. And quite honestly, this is going to put a lot of shit onto Blizzard's plate. And so I'm excited for new cards and stuff, but judging by some of the expansions they made in the past, I think it's going to be really hard to fulfill 130 cards every like 4 months. And yes, it'll be cool and it'll keep the metas new, and that's really neat. But I don't know. There's already so many filler cards. How the fuck are you gonna come up with enough cards to fill 130 cards each time? I don't know. And it's gonna be awesome for me. I love doing card reviews. I love doing card expansions. So I think that's gonna be great for content creators, and I think it will definitely kind of keep the game fresh. But wow, there's gonna be so many cards to choose from, and it's going to be really difficult to keep up with everything. And quite honestly, I'm going to be spending a lot more money on packs. So probably from a business standpoint, it's good. From a game standpoint, I question whether they'll be able to make enough interesting, new, unique cards to keep people interested. You know, if you get 130 cards and 100 of them are crap, who cares? With MSG, I thought it was really nice because so many cards had potential. Now whether those cards realize that potential or not, it's not really the point. The point is definitely during that time period where I was looking at all the cards of MSG and enjoying the rollout and looking at each card and like, there were so many deck ideas coming out and every class got something that was interesting and I thought could work. Yes, it turns out that Hunter and Paladin suck, but that doesn't mean that they didn't have potential. It just means that we haven't utilized the cards yet, or the things that they have don't really work in this current meta, but might work in a later meta. Who knows? And so that's really my point, is that just from looking at the cards and analyzing the cards, we can find new and interesting things. I just question whether they'll be able to do that 3 times a year and create single player adventures along with them. The dev team must be huge now. I mean, they must have hired a bunch of people at this point. So if they can do it, they can do it. Great. I think it's probably hard to do, but that's just me. But like I said, the good news is we're gonna get 400 cards over the course of next year, so that ain't bad at all. The other thing that's coming up is they're doing wild heroic tavern brawls coming up, and that is great, and I'm really excited about that. Just being able to create wild decks, go against each other, fight for big prizes. It made for a lot of cool content, and it was a really enjoyable experience for a lot of the top competitive players. And I think that will get more people into Wild. I think that's really neat. And last but not least, Maev Shadow Song is going to be the new Rogue skin. So I believe the only people that don't have new skins are Warlock, Druid. I think that's it. I think Warlock and Druid are the only ones, right? Something like that. I didn't really look it up. But it means that we're getting closer to having alternative skins for every hero, which I think is really great. And the nice part is, all you gotta do is play 10 standard games. You get it. So everybody should have Maeve if they want it. And I think that's really cool. So that's pretty much it. Let me just give my final thoughts, final wrap-up thoughts here. Ultimately, I think these changes will be good for the game. I just think that implementation is going to be really hard, and I do think that you're going to have a lot of players that are going to be like, well, shit, what happened? Well, what happens with my Rag, my Azure Drake, my Sylvanas? They're going to give you full dust value, and you still get to keep the cards. So that's really nice. So once you log into your account at the start of the new standard year, you just get the dust. So nice. So that's nice. So you'll be able to craft new cards for the new expansion, the new adventure. So I love the idea of getting a lot of new cards. I do think it's really cool. I feel like a lot of the cards are going to be filler. Or we give Blizzard some credit here. Hopefully they'll be introducing a lot more new mechanics and new interesting things. And that's my guess. My guess is they're going to work more on tribal synergy. They'll work more on new mechanics, and they'll give us something really amazing in the next couple of years. So thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Keep learning, keep rocking, and the Rockstar will see you later.